thing. Okay, if I'm Detroit, what am I? Okay, fine. I give up Andre Drummond for CJ McCollum. Where am I at? Am I any better than I was at this point? I mean,
I like him more. In that
okay,
case,
fine.
yeah.
How many wins better am I if I'm trading Drummond for McCollum?
4 wins.
4 wins. Fine. So you could become from a 38-win team, which is what I probably somewhere in the vicinity where I see Detroit being the 42 wins. You sneak in as a 7-8 seed in the Eastern Conference. And yeah, fine. You made the playoffs right there. But
I mean, if you're asking me who I want in the future, do I want Andre Drummond for the next 5 years, or do I want CJ McCollum for the next 5 years? I want to take CJ McCollum.
But also think about it from Portland's point of view. Portland's not taking on Andre Drummond. They have Nurkic, and like you said,
100% they're not.
So let's think of something. Let's cancel that. But let's say that they. I'm trying to think of who would make sense. I mean, who do they got there? That's
from Detroit.
From Detroit, that
no
you could
one, because I don't think Detroit's going to trade Blake Griffin.
How about Luke Kennard, Reggie Bullock, and a first-round pick?
Dude, you really don't like CJ McCollum.
Well, it's not that I don't like CJ McCollum. I'm trying to think of.
What are you going out there?
I'm trying to think of what would be. I'm trying to give you a perspective. How do you think McCollum would fit with Detroit? I'm just trying to think of how he would fit there in Detroit. Would you like that fit?
I mean, I would like it. I mean, if I'm Detroit, I would like it because I like CJ McCollum. I like what he does. I like what he can do in the NBA.
Okay. So that's all I'm trying to think of.
I don't think that there's anyone that Detroit can offer.
You're probably right. I don't disagree with you there. I'm just trying to give you throw out a perspective here how he would fit out there. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. Detroit does not have much.
I would love his fit at the Spurs, but I don't think the Spurs can put anyone out there. It's not like Portland's going to trade for Pau Gasol and DeJounte Murray's ACL.
Oh, I think they would trade for DeJounte Murray, but I don't think the Spurs would be willing to give up DeJounte Murray.
For CJ McCollum, for a proven
NBA player? For what? You have Damian Lillard there.
Wait, so Portland's not making the deal?
I don't think Portland's making that deal.
No, I know. I agree. That was what...
I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, you're right. I just think that's... I think both teams. I don't think the Spurs make... I mean, I think Spurs make that deal, but then Portland comes out with... Fine, but what you have to give us much more than that because why would Portland trade?
Well, that's the point I was trying to make. I mean,
so let's think of some notes.
I would love to fit there, but just don't see it. I mean, so the one place I argued for was Cleveland. Now, obviously, trading the swap for Kevin Love for CJ McCollum obviously doesn't put Cleveland into any type of place of contention. But what I think it does is it gives them a player that, you know, if they're draft another player, they at least have 5 more years that, you know, a good player gets to play with CJ McCollum, who I still believe in 4 to 5 years is going to be a decent player, still at the end of his prime.
Yeah, and the reason we talked about this a little bit before when we were discussing how we're going to construct this episode, and I do not like this trade for Cleveland. And again, it's not that I don't like CJ McCollum. I like CJ McCollum. The reason why I don't like this trade, okay, fine. You trade away Kevin Love, you get a CJ McCollum. Again, that improves you maybe, if it does improve your victories, it improves them 3 or 4 wins. For a Cleveland team that I feel probably will win about 33, 34 games, now you move up to 37. Why? What's the point? If I'm trading Kevin Love, if I'm Cleveland and I'm trading Kevin Love, I'm trading him for younger players. Because I want to be able to get 2 or 3 young players. Maybe they won't be Brandon Ingrams. They won't be Kyle Kuzma's. They will not be, obviously won't be Jaylen Brown's. Probably won't be Markelle Fultz's, even though Markelle Fultz hasn't performed that well so far this season. But what I am saying is I want to get 2 or 3 younger players who could potentially grow into something. And I want to make sure my team drops about 5 to 10 wins. If I'm the GM, I'm making sure my team drops down in victories so we could get a higher pick. I'm tanking is what I'm essentially saying. I'm all for tanking. I don't know what your opinion on tanking is.
No,
I'm all for tanking.
I'm all for tanking. I mean, I'm a fan of a team that, you know, I don't think their chances are really that good. I mean, I want to see them tank. You know, so I like what the Sixers did. I think the Sixers showed that it works.
We'll see.
You have 2 potential generational players.
You do, yeah, and you're right there. You're absolutely right about that.
And the Fultz thing, like, I mean, no one could have guessed what happened with Fultz, right? I mean, that was a really talented draft.
But again, that's why people say that's why most people are against tanking, because situations like Okafor's happened, situation like Nerlens Noel happened, and situation
people could have guessed the Jahlil Okafor stuff. I mean, the NBA was just changing.
They could have, but they didn't. I mean, a lot of people were saying Okafor should be selected high. So
I was one of those people, but I was one of those people because I have a Duke bias, and I wasn't really noticing the change in the NBA yet. I mean, the Warriors, that was the first year of the Warriors, right? 2015?
Yeah, I believe.
Because 14 the Spurs won, and 15 was the first real year of their breakout year.
Yeah. So, I mean, but again, that's why people are against tanking, because there's so many uncertainties when it comes to these draft picks. But like you just said, I mean, a team like Cleveland could be mired in mediocrity, or they could go out and at least give themselves a chance. And that's why we both like what Philadelphia did, because they went and gave themselves a chance. And so far, it looks like you said, they have two generational talents there. Probably moving up to Washington, and we'll break this episode down into a couple parts, because we're going a lot of back and forth in terms of banter, which I actually enjoy here. But we will break this episode down, because I think we'll discuss Washington right now and debate Bradley Beal and John Wall. Similar situation to that, and then we'll leave the best for the next episode. It might be a little less, but it'll be the best.
And we will mention Anthony Davis's name, because this is the Anthony Davis, another NBA superstar who might be traded.
Yeah, which I think we know that'll be in part 2, obviously, along with some other things. But yeah, so Washington probably in a little bit of worse of a situation than Portland in terms of they're not as good of a team. I think they haven't been as good of a team, and I don't think they are as good of a team this year.
It starts at the top with me. I think Damian Lillard's just a much better player than John Wall.
How about Beal and McCollum?
I prefer Beal. I prefer Beal's size. I prefer Beal's defensive ability.
And he's younger.
And he's younger, and he's got a little bit of a better contract. He's getting paid a little bit less, $4 million.
Yeah, and for that reason, I think because of the fact that he's younger, if I'm Washington, the opposite situations here. I keep my shooting guard. I keep my small forward and Otto Porter. I trade away John Wall. What do you think?
I'm the same way, and especially since last year when John Wall went down, we've seen that Bradley Beal can be a little bit of that playmaker as well. I mean, he fit well with Satoransky, and I feel like that's I would keep Bradley Beal. I wouldn't want to trade. I mean, when the Spurs were thinking of Kawhi trades, the one player that I really wanted the most would have been in Bradley Beal. I was kind of hoping that the GM of the Wizards would take that same shot that Masai Ujiri did and be able to part ways with him, but obviously it didn't work out. I don't know if it was even discussed. And I think the Wizards are pretty smart for not discussing it, just because of Beal's age.
The contract situations, I think, would have been the biggest holdback for Washington.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that, obviously DeRozan was under contract too, and it wasn't a holdback for Toronto.
Well, yeah, but that's, again, different situation. I think, how old is DeRozan?
28, 29.
28, 29. And I think overall, Toronto could take that chance because they had the better team there. They could be like, hey, we've been a better team, and we're going to go out.
But, people are really praising this Kawhi thing about, for Ujiri doing it, but it could really bite them, right?
It could, but I think
did really.
There's a better chance of Kawhi staying with Toronto than there would have been had he been traded to Washington. Yeah,
sure.
So I think it's a little bit of a risk for Toronto on that end because of that. Real quick, Blake Griffin just went off for 50 points. Wow. Okay. And they ended up beating Philadelphia by 1, but yeah, back on track. With John Wall, he did just sign that Supermax contract where he will be getting paid essentially $200 million over the next 5 years, more than that, I believe, which would be a factor in the trade. Where would you see John Wall fitting in?
Yeah, this is a tough one because that contract really does get paid over $40 million in 4 years a year.
5 years, I believe.
Yeah, in 4 years' time, he's having his salary. He's getting
it's increasing, yeah. Over 40, yeah. He's 38 next year, and
a big part of your salary cap? Your big part of your salary cap. And I don't know if John Wall is worth that. So my thoughts were when I was thinking about this, I was thinking of teams that can have some contracts to shed. but don't have a lot of cap flexibility. So again, the first team that came to my mind was the Miami Heat, especially since Pat Riley likes superstars, and I thought, maybe John Wall would be that player that he goes for.
Not a bad option. I think. I wonder who you would trade here. I mean,
so the deal I was thinking is Dragic would be involved. So you're getting rid of.
You have to involve Dragic, obviously, for contractual reasons.
Maybe a Justice Winslow can be enticing. I don't think
that's enough, though. I don't think that's enough for Washington to bite.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I understand that they just gave John Wall this contract, but maybe it'd be good just to shed it. Maybe cut your losses before.
Maybe it would.
Get rid of it.
I think next offseason, and here's the thing. I think the way, if I'm Miami, the only way I think I take this contract on is if I could get a trade for Jimmy Butler as well. So let's talk about that deal. I mean, I do think ultimately...
But the deal that I was talking would still probably leave the Jimmy Butler out there, right? Because you still can...
And that's exactly what I'm trying to think.
Richardson and maybe a Bam.
I think you trade Josh Richardson a first-round pick. I don't think Miami's giving up Bam and Josh. And I think that...
Well, then fine. If that's the deal, then you might even, if you're Miami, just take on that Dieng contract and kind of screw yourself for the next couple of years. But... You do have.
I think you do, yeah. I think, yeah. But okay,
because that's what I heard that the Pat Riley didn't want to take at the end. That the deal was almost made, but then Thibodeau said something like, take on Deng as well."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh no!" And you
can't
play.
I watched Dieng play yesterday against Sabonis. Man, Dieng could not do anything in terms of defense on Sabonis. So I think. Again, very small sample size of what I've seen of Dieng, but man, I don't think he's got any value.
I mean, the only thing he can really do is hit an open jump shot.
Okay, yeah, so basically no value left. I mean, it's nice, but yeah. So thinking about that, I mean, like you just said, you might be able to screw yourself. You trade a bad 2-year contract for Dieng's bad 3-year contract. You do that, you trade away Richardson in the first-round pick. And then what do you have left? I mean, you have Dragic to trade for John Wall, which obviously I think we both agree you do. Maybe, like you said, a Winslow, but that's not enough. And now you don't have, if you trade away your 2019 first-round pick, you can't trade away another pick till 2023 because Philadelphia has that 2021, which I don't think Washington wants to wait that long. So would you include a Bam?
For the Miami pick?
For Washington.
If I'm Miami, I'm trying not to. I'm doing my best not to.
But you have to because you don't have a first-round pick.
If I'm getting John Wall and Jimmy Butler?
If you're getting John Wall and Jimmy, yeah.
Yeah,
Only way I do it if I'm Miami.
Yeah, I say I do it. I just take it. And because I don't think Bam's going to be a guy who... I mean, he's going to be a good player, but I don't think he's going to be a superstar. I don't think he's going to be an all-star. So I don't think he's a player that you don't... The reason why you don't make this deal.
Probably too. Now, would you do Winslow and Bam plus Dragic?
Well, to me, Winslow's gone from Miami after this year. It just doesn't seem to be working out.
No, they just signed a contract. He just signed a contract.
Wait, he extended this?
Yeah, about a week ago.
Damn, I missed it. How much did he get?
I believe it was about 11, 12 million for 3 years.
Well, that's interesting. So then I'm wrong, I guess, and then they seem to want to have him on the team.
Well, yeah, I mean, so what if, okay, Dragic, Winslow, and Bam for John Wall, and I think they would probably have to add in a decent player there. Washington would.
Washington probably get all
because I mean you're getting 3 decent. You're getting a player who was an all-star last year, who, like you said, not in the Western Conference, but again he was an all-star. So you're getting a solid point guard. You're getting 2 young players. Again, the solid point guard is older. So maybe if you're Washington, you add in a Saransky, another player.
I wouldn't want to give him up. I really like.
So maybe
game.
What if you give up a Rivers? What if you give up a Rivers, somebody who Washington probably won't resign, but Miami probably could resign?
I do it in a heartbeat if you give up Rivers. I'm fine with that.
All right. So I'm going to throw 2 more teams at you here, who I would see trading for Wall. Now these are 2 teams who don't have cap flexibility and won't have for a minimum of 2 years. New Orleans and Milwaukee.
New Orleans, no, because I like the Drew Holiday. I like him.
But what if they play Drew Holiday at shooting guard like they did last year when Rondo was there? Seemed to work out pretty well.
I don't know if John Wall is the type of player that's going to work well with Anthony Davis, just because you